I'm Ethan Miller, 28 years old, and I live for the perfect sound. My home is Charlotte, North Carolina, and my world revolves around wires, speakers, and the magic of a perfectly tuned audio system. I work as an audio and home theater installer for a fantastic company, building dreams for people, one meticulously wired room at a time. It's more than just a job, it's a craft. I love seeing the light in a client's eyes when their favorite song fills their living room with crystal clear sound, or when a movie comes alive with true surround sound. My boss, Steve, is one of a kind. He's got my back no matter what, and he runs our business with a strong belief in fair pricing and respect for our work. If a customer was being unreasonable or trying to lowball us, Steve was always there to set them straight. I take immense pride in my precision, my ability to hide every cable, to optimize every speaker for its unique space. It's intricate work, often requiring drilling through thick walls or running cables over long distances, and it demands expertise. We always quoted a price based on the complexity, the number of rooms, the cabling required, and the labor involved. We collect half up front and the other half upon completion after the customer signed a form confirming everything worked perfectly. I felt good about my contribution, building these beautiful soundscapes for homes across the city. However, there was always that one type of client, the kind who saw us as just hired hands, not skilled professionals, and they were the only thing that ever truly bothered me. I guess I was about to meet the king of that particular kind of client. My world was shaken the day Mr. Henderson walked in, or rather called in. He was a wealthy man, you could tell by the address he gave us, but he had a voice that reeked of entitlement and impatience. He wanted a full house setup, inside, outside, multiple rooms, every television integrated with sound, and he wanted it cheap. When Steve and I went to his massive Charlotte estate to scope it out, we saw right away it was a nightmare for cabling. Thick concrete walls, stone exteriors, long distances between rooms. We explained the technical challenges and gave him a fair, detailed quote, around $5,000, reflecting the sheer difficulty and scale of the project. Mr. Henderson, however, was not happy. He scoffed, said he could find someone to do it for less, and dismissed us with a wave of his hand. We left, not really expecting to hear from him again, figuring he'd go find some amateur to botch the job. I felt a familiar pang of dissatisfaction. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about the lack of respect, the casual dismissal of our expertise. People just didn't seem to understand the skill involved in what we did. Mr. Henderson became my nemesis right then, a symbol of everything I disliked about certain clients. Then, out of nowhere, Mr. Henderson called us back, sounding frantic. He had forgotten, he claimed, that he was hosting a massive party that Saturday. It was Wednesday, he needed music, a full system, and he needed it now. Steve explained that to pull off such a huge installation in 2 days, we'd need more installers, which meant a higher cost. The initial $5,000 quote would now be for a highly rushed, intense installation. To my surprise, Mr. Henderson agreed without much argument, desperate as he was. He paid the new hire 50% deposit, $2,500. I remember thinking, perhaps optimistically, that maybe he'd finally understood the value of our work. On Thursday, we started the install, and from hour one it was a total disaster, a real nightmare. Mr. Henderson was hovering over us like a hawk, contesting every single speaker placement, every mounting point, every cable run. He questioned my methods, my measurements, even the type of screws I was using. It was maddening. We were usually so efficient, gliding through installations, but with Mr. Henderson's constant interruptions and second guessing, we were slowed to a crawl. After 6 grueling hours, we had only managed to complete 2 out of the 6 rooms, and we still had the patio and entire outdoor areas to wire. It became crystal clear that we were not going to finish on time, not with him micromanaging every single tiny step. I politely, professionally pointed this out to Mr. Henderson. That's when he completely lost it. He started yelling, calling me a terrible installer, uneducated, poor, and spewing all sorts of vile personal insults. He even said I would never be a successful businessman like him because I had no drive. It was a low blow aimed right at my pride and my professional identity. I bit my tongue, holding back a sharp retort, trying to keep my composure. My hands were shaking not from fear, but from a burning, frustrated anger that simmered beneath my skin. On Friday, Mr. Henderson finally realized the gravity of the situation. He saw how little progress we had made, how much work was left. He reluctantly agreed to cut down the number of rooms from 6 to 4, plus the patio area. It was still a massive undertaking for a single day, a huge push, but it was doable. Still, he argued over every single placement, every decision on how to do the wiring, as if he knew more about audio installation than I did. Drilling through his thick stone walls was a brutal, physically demanding job, and his constant criticism made it even worse. Every time the drill bit hit solid rock, it felt like it was drilling into my last nerve. Despite the constant harassment, we pushed through. By the end of Friday, we had most of the rooms set up, and I ran the final tests. The system worked perfectly, every speaker humming with clear sound, every television integrated seamlessly. Mr. Henderson, for the first time, seemed almost happy. We packed up our tools, exhausted but relieved, and went out for a much-needed beer, hoping that the worst was behind us. I felt like we had salvaged the job, even though it had been pure torment, but the low point arrived on Saturday morning. My phone rang, and it was Mr. Henderson screaming at the top of his lungs. He was absolutely furious, claiming he was not happy with the install at all, that it was broken and didn't work. He declared that he would not pay us the remaining 50% of the updated quote. He then demanded that I come back over immediately to test the system again because, according to him, it was completely dysfunctional. My blood ran cold. The system had been working perfectly when I left. He was lying, flat out lying, to try and get out of paying the final half of the bill. I saw red. This wasn't just about money, it was about integrity, about all the insults he'd hurled at me, about the hours of hard, thankless work we'd put in. He was trying to take advantage of me to get thousands of dollars worth of expert installation for free. All the frustration, all the anger I'd been suppressing boiled over. I immediately called Steve, my boss. Steve was livid when I explained the situation, his voice tight with barely contained fury. He told me to calm down, then, with a cold, clear voice, he gave me the go-ahead for what I was about to do. I hung up the phone, a strange, determined calm settling over me. I drove back to Mr. Henderson's Charlotte estate, the anger still a low hum in my veins, but now it was controlled, channeled. I walked into his house, maintaining a perfectly professional demeanor. He stood there, arms crossed, a smug expression on his face, clearly expecting me to beg or frantically try to fix his non-existent problem. I went through the motions, testing the system, fiddling with a few settings, making it look like I was doing something complex and technical. The system, of course, responded perfectly because it was never broken to begin with. Mr. Henderson, seeing that everything appeared to be working, finally cracked a smile. He was satisfied, believing he had intimidated me into fixing something for free. Then, with a casual, almost dismissive tone, he dropped the bomb. "I'm still not going to pay you. This is how you get things for free, by complaining." He had just admitted his plan right to my face with a smirk, a slow, cold smile stretched across my own face. "Of course, Mr. Henderson," I said, my voice as even as I could make it. "Just need you to sign this completion form, confirming everything is working to your satisfaction." He signed it without a moment's hesitation, practically bragging about his successful scheme. That was his first mistake. My second act of revenge was about to begin. "Excellent," I said, picking up a small toolkit. "Now I just need to do a final check on the amplifier connections. Sometimes, with new systems, things can settle." I walked over to the rack where all the amplifiers and sound processors were neatly installed. Mr. Henderson watched, oblivious, probably thinking I was doing some fancy final calibration. With deliberate, almost theatrical slowness, I started disconnecting every single wire from the back of every amplifier. One by one, I pulled them out: the speaker wires, the audio input cables, the network cables, the power cords. I made sure to leave them neatly coiled so it looked like I was just preparing to reseat them, but the truth was I was rendering his entire $5,000 system completely useless. It would be entirely silent, just an expensive collection of useless boxes. Then I moved to each individual speaker in every room, performing the same ritual. I disconnected the wires, careful not to damage anything, but making sure absolutely no sound would come out. He was paying close attention, but he had no idea what I was truly doing. He just saw me working methodically, professionally. Once I was done, I gave him a pleasant nod. "All set, Mr. Henderson, have a wonderful party." I gathered my tools, walked out, got into my van, and immediately turned off my work phone. The quiet satisfaction was immense, like a perfectly balanced bass note thrumming through my entire body. I knew what was coming. On Monday morning, my work phone, which I had only just turned back on, rang off the hook. It was Steve, my boss, and he was practically laughing, a deep, booming laugh that made my chest feel lighter. Mr. Henderson had called Steve, absolutely livid, ranting and raving that nothing had worked during his party, that his entire $5,000 system was broken, and that his party was ruined. Steve, however, had been a brick wall. He calmly explained to Mr. Henderson that since the system had been signed off as working perfectly, any issues now would be considered a new service call. And since Mr. Henderson had refused to pay the remaining 50%, Steve informed him that we would fix the problem only if the outstanding balance of $2,500 was paid immediately, along with an additional $5,000 fee for the diagnosis and repair. Mr. Henderson, desperate and humiliated from his silent party, had agreed to every single demand. He had wanted to get the installation for free by complaining, and now he was paying us the remaining $2,500 plus an extra $5,000 for a total of $7,500 simply to reconnect a few wires. It was the most poetic justice I had ever witnessed. I drove back to Mr. Henderson's house later that day, a quiet smile playing on my lips. The arrogance and smugness were gone. Mr. Henderson was now apologetic, almost timid, and incredibly polite. He practically bowed me into the house, rambling about how sorry he was for the misunderstanding. I nodded, maintaining a perfectly straight face, and went straight to the amplifier rack. With Mr. Henderson watching, his eyes wide with desperate hope, I methodically, slowly, reconnected every single wire just as I had disconnected them. Then I went to each speaker and did the same. Within minutes, the system sprang to life, music filling the silent house. It was almost too easy. I tested a few zones, showed him it was all working flawlessly, and then, with a casual wave, presented him with the final bill for the repair. Paid it immediately without a single word of complaint. I walked out of that house with my head held high, the weight of the full $7,500 in my company's account, and a satisfaction that ran deeper than any amount of money. I didn't just get paid. I taught Mr. Henderson a very expensive lesson about respect, integrity, and the true cost of trying to cheat people out of their hard work. Due to this entire fiasco, Steve, my boss, actually implemented a new company policy. He said that if any customer ever tried to pull a stunt like Mr. Henderson's again, we were to do exactly what I did. Simply disconnect the cables, render their entire system silent, and then ignore them until they were willing to pay double for the fix. It was a subtle, unexpected twist that made me grin every time I thought about it. My act of revenge hadn't just gotten us paid, it had changed company policy, empowering all of us installers against disrespectful clients. I walked a little taller now, a quiet confidence settling into my bones. My work still involved wires and speakers, but now it also felt like I was a guardian of professional integrity, silently teaching lessons about respect with every perfectly reconnected cable. Some lessons, I realized, are best taught not with words, but with silence and a very, very hefty bill.